Hi there, welcome back to this channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about the urinary system, and specifically, we are going to be talking about the kidneys and how they function. We're going to mention the parts and their functions, and then you should stick to the end of this video because I am going to be unveiling to you types of the possible types of questions that you might see in your JAMB under the topic of urinary system. All right, let's get into it. Now, the urinary system, basically, as the name implies, is the system that produces urine. All right, and it comprised of the right and left kidneys. So let's label that. We have the right kidney, then we have the left kidney. Now, if you are confused as to how this is being named, anatomically we look at from our own perspective. Is that okay? So, from my perspective, this is my right, this is my left. So, this will be my right kidney, and this will be my left kidney. All right? Now, so this is the left kidney, this is the right kidney. Then it's also comprised of these two, which are the vein and the artery. So the major artery, which is the one that supplies blood to all part of the body from the heart, or we say takes blood away from the heart, and the major artery is called the aorta, the aorta or aorta. Now, let me write that well. Then there is the vein of the body, the major vein of the body, which is called the vena cava. Now, this is called, because it is under the heart, is coming under the heart, we call it the posterior vena cava. The posterior vena cava. And this is the descending aorta. The descending aorta, because it leads down, the aorta leads down from the heart. All right. Now there is this, which we call these two, we call them ureters. And then we have the urinary bladder. Now the urinary bladder. Okay, and then we have here, this leads to the urethra. All right, so now we know the component parts of the urinary system. Now, what anatomically, what do we see? Now you will see that anatomically, this guy, which is the right kidney, is slightly pushed downward than the left kidney. That is, the left kidney is slightly above the right kidney anatomically, and that is because of the kidneys. The right kidney is just below the liver, which is a very large organ. So, and you know that the shape of the liver is somewhat like this. So this, it has to make space for this side here. Is that okay? For this other lobe of the kidney. So that space is where is what pushes this guy slightly downwards anatomically. All right. So we have that so we have the right kidney as lower than the left kidney. Then the next thing you also notice is that these two blood vessels, we call this the vein, the posterior vena cava, and this the artery. Now they are connected to both of the kidneys, which means that the kidney enjoys blood supply. Now the artery here is connected by this to the left kidney, and it's connected by this other tube to the right kidney, and this to the left kidney. This is also connected. Now, what do? So this tubule will be the one to supply blood to both the left kidney and here to the right kidney. This guy, the aorta, supplies blood to the left kidney and the right kidneys. The posterior vena cava, on the other hand, the vein, it takes blood away from every other organ and back to the heart. So when you see it's connected to any organ, it means that the vein there is collecting the blood back to the heart. Is that okay? Artery takes blood away from the heart. The vein returns blood to the heart. Do you understand? So here, what you have is that the kind of blood now that enters into this place is blood that is filled with excretory products, or you call them is filled with waste. Is that okay? Then purified blood. So it means that bad blood, not bad blood per se, but blood that is filled with waste comes into the aorta comes into the kidney through the aorta. So the aorta carries the bad or waste, the polluted blood into the kidney, not necessarily polluted, but blood that is filled with waste, just think of it that way. Then the posterior vena cava takes the blood, takes purified blood to the heart. Is that okay? Now, then you have the ureters. The ureters basically take the waste that is being removed. So the essence of taking waste blood filled with waste to the kidney is that the kidney performs excretory function. So the kidney is excretory in its functionality. So for that reason, the blood that is full of waste, that needs waste to be extracted or removed from it, goes to the kidney. Now the kidney extracts this waste and passes it down to one of our excretory organs, which is the bladder. So and it takes it in form of urine, a fluid. It takes it in form of urine, which passes through the ureter. So the function of the ureters are basically to what? To take the blood that has been, to take the urine or waste that has been removed from the blood and pass it down to the ureter. Now, anatomically, again, you will see that I put dot here to show that these ureters connect to this bladder from the back, from behind. Is that okay? Now, then there is a band here known as the sphincter. We call them sphincters. All right. Now, sphincters are basically like bands that help to close a particular region, the boundary between two organs. So we have anal sphincter, the one that helps our anus to expand and close back. So then there is also the urinary sphincter here, which is the one that stops urine from trickling down directly. Is that okay? However, we know that this drains peristatically, not just by gravity. So because you might think that urine just drains down here because it is, positioned this way, you think that it drains only by gravity. It's not just by gravity. In fact, if you were to put yourself upside down, you drank a lot of water, urine will still come down here because it has to be what? Because it has to be excreted out. Now, this guy collects the urine and it becomes expanded as it collects urine. In fact, if you see the size of the urinary bladder is small when nothing is in it, and when the urine fills it up, it becomes expanded. So and by the expansion, it will seem as though there will be pressure on it. That is why when you feel like urinating, that pressure causes you to want it to seem as if the urine is going to come out. And sometimes the urine does comes out, but if your sphincter is working very well, urine should not trickle down by itself. So this sphincter is what helps it during that short period of time to keep the urine in place. All right, now let's now talk about the process of that, the process of the creation of that urine. Now, how does urine get created? Now, urine, this kidney has some internal structures that enable it to create urine. It has what? Internal structures that enable it to create urine. Now, these internal structures are the ones that receive the incurrent blood, that is the incoming blood, from where? From the renal arteries. So keep in mind that anytime you hear renal, the word renal refers to anything that is associated with the kidney. And anytime you hear the word hepatic, it refers to anything associated with the liver. So how does the kidney function in creating urine? Like I said, we said anything you see as that is renal, it means it's connected with the kidney. So for example, you hear renal artery, you hear renal vein, renal column, renal pelvis, and all of those terms, it means they're associated with the kidney. Just like we said, when you hear the word hepa or hepatic, it means it's associated with the liver. All right, now this guy has some structures within it that enable it in the creation of urine. Now, first is that renal artery. The renal artery brings waste blood that contains waste products to be excreted, brings it into the kidney. Then this blood goes into the kidney via that renal artery and that renal artery continues and ends at afferent arterioles. Now I'm going to still bring that out here, what you will see as afferent arteriole. Now that afferent arteriole is the end of that is the smallest part of that renal artery before we see the renal capillaries. So they go into the blood, into the nephrons. Is that okay? That renal arteriole, afferent arteriole, goes into the nephron, and then some processes take place, which I'm going to expatiate on here. And inside that place, the urine is being produced, and then it enters into structures called calyces. Now, those calyces empty into the pelvis, which are around here, and the pelvis leads to the ureters. Is that okay? Now, there are two parts here, two parts of the kidney, or two sections of the kidney that are very important, and those are the medulla and the cortex. The renal medulla and the renal cortex. So if you've heard of the word cortex before, you know what we usually use for is for outer, something outside. Then medulla, from the word middle. Is that okay? So renal medulla and renal cortex. So they are both called the parenchyma of the kidney. The parenchyma of the kidney. All right, the kidney parenchyma. Now let's expatiate on those things and let's see how the kidney produces the urine. So basically, I want to talk about the kidney now and its anatomy. Now, so this is going to be a cross section of the kidney. Now, the kidney is made up of pyramidal shaped in 3D. You see them as pyramids, but in cross section here they appear as triangles. Is that okay? So pyramidal shaped units like this, is it shaped like a pyramid? So in 3D, you're going to see it as a pyramid. These units are found in the renal medulla. So you see the end in this, they have an almost tapering end. Is that okay? So we have them this way. So typically, an adult human, we have up to 6 or 8. Is that okay? So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to use just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's add one more. 6 here. Now, the boundary between here and here is called the medulla. Then this outside space here is called the cortex. This outer back part here is called the cortex. And I said both the cortex and medulla have their roles to play in the production of urine. Now you have to understand these two sides because the major functional unit of the kidney is called the nephron. And the nephron begins at the cortex and ends in the medulla. Is that okay? So that's why you have to understand these sides. Now you see this guy the kidney has what we call a renal capsule surrounding it. A renal capsule. Now this renal capsule is enriched with adipose tissue. Is enriched with what? Adipose tissue or fatty tissue. Whenever you hear the word adipose, adipose means fat. Adipose tissue. It means a fatty tissue. Is that okay? All right. Now, what the fatty tissue has to do is it helps to cushion it. It helps to cushion the kidney. All right. So then the renal capsule also is the renal capsule is rich in pain receptors, and that's why when you are not on this side of your back, you're going to feel a sharp pain. That sharp pain is because of the pain receptors that are, pain receptors. We call them nociceptors. That is their biological. That is their scientific name. We call them nociceptors. Nociceptors. So nociceptors are pain receptors. So pain receptors are where are in the renal capsule. All right, and that's why pains with the kidney are very, in fact, they are deadly. Is that okay? Now, we said this part of the kidney is called the what? The renal cortex. Now, just above the kidney, there is a gland we call the adrenal gland, the one that secretes adrenaline, or clinically known as epinephrine and the norepinephrine hormones. All right. So we said that this guy here is the cortex. So this region here, all of this region, is the cortex. Now, I said the functional unit of this kidney is called the nephron, and the nephron begins at the cortex here. I'm going to bring out the nephron so that you can see the way it is. But it begins at around this place, and then it enters here. So it is there is a loop that enters here, and then connects to what we call connecting dots, and then the connecting dots now enters into what we call the papillary ducts. Now, the papillary ducts here are somewhat like this. Papillary ducts. Papillary ducts. All right. So you are going to see that this thing is entering into this place, and it will empty into this place, empty its contents into this place. Now, these spaces here that you see here, they are called the renal columns. So they are the columns of the kidney. Now, this is the way it is. The nephron, each of these pyramids have up to millions of pyramids, thousands and millions of pyramids. Now, those nephrons are so tightly packed and convoluted. Now, the word convoluted. They are microscopic and they are convoluted. Is that okay? They are very small. Like the simplest unit, singly, they are very small and they are in millions here. So it means they are tightly packed together. They are, and wound around each other. Convoluted means coiled. That's not convoluted. Coiled. Is that okay? So, that is how they are able to fit in here. So in this diagram, I'm bringing out only one. So you're going to see this tube, this straight line here is called the collecting duct. Then, so such collecting duct, all those nephrons empty into a collecting duct that empty into the papillary duct. Now, this here we call the papillary duct. Now, the word papilla means like the tip of the breast. Is that okay? So the tip or base of this pyramid are called papillary. So, and that is the beginning of those ducts. Is that okay? So we call them papillary ducts. They are tiny tips. Is that okay? Very little and tiny. Is that okay? So these papillary ducts are the one that enter into the calyces. Now, singly, we call them calyx, but in plural, we call them calyces if there are more than one. Calyces. All right. So these calyces are the one that now enters into this space here, and this space here is called the renal pelvis. The space that you have here is called the renal pelvis. All right, and the renal pelvis then continues into the ureter. And the ureter, of course, empties into the bladder. So, and that is the movement. That's the movement of how how waste is being produced. Okay, but I didn't put, now there's something missing here, and that is the renal artery and the renal vein. So the blood that enters from here enters into the kidney. So blood enters here into this guy, and by the time the blood will be connecting back, the network is such that we have artery, then we have convoluted capillary, then that continues into the vein. So the vein is usually thicker than the artery because of higher pressure. So we have into here, we have the artery, then capillaries, then veins. Is that okay? So when the blood that is now purified comes out, it comes out through the renal vein. So here we have the renal. This whole diagram is messed up, but I hope you are seeing what I'm doing. This is the renal artery from which blood enters into the kidney, and the renal vein out of which the blood returns to the heart. The pure blood returns to the heart. So this whole section here is called the medulla. Everything you see here, this whole section is called the medulla, the renal medulla. Now that is how the movement of urine is within the kidney. Now that simplest unit of the kidney, which I call the nephron, how does it function? Now let me show you a simple diagram of the nephron. So we're going to be seeing how it functions. Now, the nephron begins at a capsule that is known as the Bowman capsule. All right. So the nephron begins at a capsule that is known as the Bowman capsule. The Bowman capsule. Now, inside the Bowman capsule is a network. So think of it this way: is a network of capillaries. Inside the Bowman capsule is a network of capillaries, and this invagination here, inside the nephron is known as the Malpighian body. Malpighian body. Is that okay? Then this place is what we call the Bowman capsule. This entire place here, we call it the what? The Bowman's capsule. So just follow me. Then inside the Bowman's capsule, we have this network of capillary. So the network of capillary begins at here, which we call the afferent arterial. So you remember, anytime you hear the word afferent, it means the one that enters. Then efferent, the one that goes out. So if I draw another network, if it continues into another network here, that's what? Efferent arterial. Do you understand? So we have afferent arterial that enters here. Now they form a network of capillary here. Now what they basically do is what? They bring in blood that is filled with waste. Now that blood gets, now for the process of the process of urine production, happens in three phases. We have what we call the filtration, and we call it ultrafiltration because it is at the microscopic level. Is that okay? Ultrafiltration. We have reabsorption, that is selective. So we call it selective reabsorption. It means that it doesn't absorb everything. It only absorbs some. So we have selective reabsorption and we have secretion. All right, let's quickly go through these three processes. Now, the ultrafiltration process requires two things to occur, and the first is high pressure. So what is the high pressure? The high pressure is brought about by the you know the 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 tiny lumen of the arteriole. So blood that was coming from a larger pipe, which was the artery, the renal artery, which has a larger lumen, is going to continue into the arteriole, which has a tinier lumen. So the pressure is increased. So that pressure comes into, the blood comes in with that pressure into the Bowman's capsule. Now, in this Bowman capsule, there is this network of capillary that we call the glomerulus. The glomerulus. Now, this glomerulus is where the blood is, filtered out, is filtered into the Bowman's capsule. So the content of the glomerulus make its way into the Bowman's capsule. Now, how does it make its way into the Bowman's capsule? I said through the high pressure blood that is flowing into the capillary. Now, some of the content of what enters here are water, and in fact, by experiment, it has been found out that the content of this Bowman capsule is basically the content of the plasma, the blood plasma, except the plasma proteins. Because the plasma proteins are too large to be filtered out of these sieve or mesh. Is that okay? The glomerulus is basically like a mesh network. All right. So the content enters into this Bowman's capsule and it makes its way down. Now, when it enters into the Bowman's capsule, this afferent arteriole still continues like this around these tubules. We call them peritubular capillaries. We call them what? Peritubular. Peri means outside. Tubular, that is outside the tubules. Do you get it now? So peritubular. Peritubular capillaries. Now, capillaries. Now, what happens is that those peritubular capillaries are still there to perform the function of reabsorption and secretion. So note, ultrafiltration takes place where? In the glomerulus. Ultrafiltration takes place where? In the glomerulus, and the content enters into what? The Bowman's capsule. So sometimes some of the content that has got entered into the Bowman's capsule are still needed by the body. So what happens? We have what? The process of selective reabsorption. Now, why is it called selective? Selective because it's not everything. Some are wastes, so it's not everything that will be taken back by the body. And why is it reabsorption? Reabsorption because there are nutrients that we want to take back that are still useful for us, the body that is still useful for the body. So they are nutrients, so they want to be taken back again. That's why it's called reabsorption. Of course, they've been absorbed before by the GI tract, our GIT, through the food we eat. We have absorbed them into the body, but now some of them have made their way by mistake into the Bowman's capsule because they are very small. Some of those ions are very tiny. They can make their way into through those pores, those mesh or that mesh of the glomerulus. So what happens is that some of them has to be taken back by the body. So they are taken back through what? The process of what? Reabsorption. Now this portion of the glomerulus, of the nephron, this portion here is called the proximal convoluted tubule. Now the word tubule. The word proximal means near. I hope that is clear, okay? Proximal convoluted tubule. Proximal convoluted tubule. So if one is proximal, that is close to this side, then there's one that is far away from it. So that is called the distal convoluted tubule. So we call this portion, this side, this whole convolution, we call it the distal convoluted tubule. And take note of the word proximal. Proximal means near. Distal means far away. So proximal near, distal far. Proximal near, distal far. You could use that down step too to remember. Proximal near, distal far. Proximal near, distal far. You understand what I'm saying? All right. So distal Convoluted. Convoluted means bound up, coiled. Is that okay? The proximal convoluted tubule and distal convoluted tubule. Now there is this U-shaped loop that is called the Henle loop or loop of Henle. Loop of Henle. And it was named after a particular scientist who found it. His name was FGJ Henle. FGJ Henle. Is that okay? Now, so this loop of Henle it contains two parts that ends in a hairpin turn here. This part that goes down is called the descending loop. Is that okay? And this guy that goes up is called the ascending loop. Do you understand? Very simply. The guy that goes down is what? Descending. The part that goes up is what? The ascending limb. We actually call them limb, not loop. Is the entire thing we call loop. So we call this ascending limb and the descending limb. Now, so those network of peritubular capillaries are still around here, performing the function of what? Reabsorption and then secretion of some other things into the tubules. Is that okay? Into that tubule. So tubule because they are small. You understand? Tubule because they are small, they are very tiny pipes. Is that okay? Their lumen is very tiny. Now, between this portion here, and no, from this portion of the loop, the beginning of the loop, it is the loop that enters into the medulla. So from here to here, we have the medulla. Is that okay? So it's the loop of it that makes it into the medulla of that kidney. So it means that all of this thing you see here, no, this one is slightly below. So it's also inside the medulla. Is that okay? But all of this part here, the Bowman capsule and the glomerulus and the distal convoluted tubule are in the cortex. They are in the what? Cortex. So there is a fluid, the interstitial fluid that is in the medulla is quite concentrated with ions. It's concentrated. So because of that concentration, the essence of that concentration is to draw out water or some other ions from the tubule. Is that okay? Through the help of those capillaries. I mean, you know that we say where salt goes, water follows. So that interstitial fluid is quite, concentrated. It's salty. So that's because of that high concentration of ions, some water still make their way back into the capillaries. Is that okay? And capillaries then secrete some substances that are not needed, such as urea and creatine. Is that okay? So these substances are being secreted. That's what we call secretion, the process of secretion. They are being secreted from the capillaries back into this loop. So, and those processes take place inside of this tube. Is that okay? Starting from this loop of convoluted tubule. Is that okay? So, and then the ascending loop or limb, and then the distal convoluted tubule. And that's why the reabsorption still keeps taking place and secretion keeps taking place to make sure that there is balance. The kidney is a homeostatic organ, so the body loves homeostasis. So it wants to make sure that there is balance between the ion and water of the body. So that process continues, reabsorption of substances, secretion of substances, until we get to this place, which we call the collecting duct. The collecting duct. So it is the collecting duct that now empty via the renal papillary or renal papilla. So via the renal papilla and into the calyces. Then the calyces empty. There are two types of calyx. We have the minor calyx, which are the small ones that are closer to the. Now, if you see, you remember that this is the shape of the. This is the shape of the pyramid. So let's say this was the pyramid, and this is the shape. So this is the renal papilla. Now, renal papilla now enters into the calyx. The calyx also branches into bigger calyx. Is that okay? So this smaller, this one is renal papilla. papillae for plural. So this place here is the small calyx, which we call the minor calyx. And there's bigger calyx. The bigger calyxes are those that are empty into the pelvis. So we call those ones the major calyx. And that is how the process of urine formation is. So it goes like that into the collecting duct to the renal papilla, then to the minor calyx, to the major calyx, and then the pelvis, renal pelvis. And from the renal pelvis continues into the ureter, and then the ureter ends at the bladder. The bladder, of course, continues into the urethra, which is shorter in female and long in male. Now, so if this was our urethra, for example, let's say this was the urinary bladder. I told you there's a sphincter here, which is just what allows it to expand and contract. All right. So this sphincter enters into and leads to the urethra, which I said was long in us because was long in male. Of course, male use pipe, so it's longer urethra. So now the content of this empties into the urethra. Now I was going to say the urethra. Now our own urethra, between our urethra is surrounded by our prostate gland. The prostate gland, and it's one of the parts of the human body of the man that continues to grow. You know, it never stops growing. So by the time the man is of old age, you see that it has become bigger, and the implication of that is that it squeezes the urethra. So that's why it is harder for an old man to urinate. I mean, if you go out, if you are a 20-year-old or less, and you go out to urinate at the same time with a 50-year-old man, you're going to notice that it will take him time before the urine actually makes its way out of his penis than it will take you, because your prostate gland have not developed so great that it has begun to shrink or push on the urethra. So that is it for the kidney and its function. In the next video, I said we are going to treat some questions. All right, because of the longevity of this video, I'm going to make it on another video, but I'll link it in the description. So go to the description now and click on the video down in the description. I'm going to show you questions, all the possible questions that you can see under kidney. See you in the next video, and do well to subscribe to the channel, please, because it helps the channel to grow, and of course, so that you can get notified whenever I drop good content like this. God bless you.